Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak together in Los Angeles. One photo, one sighting, and suddenly the internet is asking the question that Silk Sonic fans have been waiting to ask again. Are Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak preparing for another Silk Sonic chapter? The buzz is growing fast, but here is the important part. There has been no official announcement confirming a new Silk Sonic album, a new single, or a full reunion project. What has fans talking is the timing, the chemistry, and the fact that Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak are once again spending significant time together as part of Bruno's massive 2026 era. So what exactly is happening, and why is this Los Angeles moment creating so much excitement? Stay with us, because the answer becomes much more interesting when you look at everything that has happened between these two artists over the past several months. And if you are a Bruno Mars fan, an Anderson Paak fan, or a Silk Sonic fan, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the story is moving quickly. Bruno Mars has already had one of the biggest years of his career. After nearly a decade between solo studio albums, Bruno returned with The Romantic, launching a new chapter that immediately placed him back at the center of global pop culture. Then came The Romantic Tour, his first full headlining stadium tour, bringing massive crowds, major venues, and a familiar face alongside him. And that familiar face is Anderson Paak. For casual fans, Anderson Paak appearing on Bruno Mars' tour might look like a simple touring partnership. But for millions of listeners, it means something much bigger. Because Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak are not just two artists who happened to work together once. They are Silk Sonic. The duo changed the modern R&B conversation when they combined Bruno's polished pop instincts with Anderson's unmistakable groove, personality, drumming, rap delivery, and old-school soul influence. Their 2021 project, An Evening with Silk Sonic, became a cultural moment. And the song that started everything was Leave the Door Open. The track did not simply become a hit. It became an event. The retro production, the velvet-smooth vocals, the choreography, the fashion, the humor, and the chemistry between Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak created something that felt completely different from the dominant sound of the moment. Then came the Grammy Awards. Silk Sonic won 4 Grammys for Leave the Door Open, including Record of the Year and Song of the Year. Their success proved that a throwback R&B concept could dominate modern streaming, radio, awards shows, social media, and live performances at the same time. And then, eventually, the question became unavoidable. What comes next? For years, fans have wondered whether Silk Sonic would return. Not just for a surprise performance, not just for one song, but for another full project, another album, another era, another evening with Silk Sonic. And that is why seeing Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak together in Los Angeles creates such a different reaction. Because fans have learned something about these two artists. When Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak share the same stage, the possibility of Silk Sonic never feels completely impossible. And that possibility has become even stronger during the Romantic Tour. Anderson Paak is officially part of the tour as DJ P.W, bringing his vinyl-driven performance style to the shows. But the relationship between Bruno and Anderson has gone far beyond a typical opening act arrangement. The two have performed Silk Sonic material together during the tour, bringing songs like 777, Fly As Me, Smokin Out the Window, and Leave the Door Open back into the live spotlight. Think about what that means. These songs are not sitting quietly in the past. They are being performed again, in stadiums, in front of huge international audiences. And every time Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak perform together, the same question returns. Could Silk Sonic be coming back? Now zoom in on the bigger picture. Bruno is currently in a completely different position than he was when Silk Sonic first exploded. He has a new solo album. He has a massive stadium tour. He has new songs. He has new audiences discovering his music. And Anderson Paak is also continuing to expand his own creative universe through music, film, production, DJ P.W, and other projects. That makes a potential Silk Sonic comeback complicated. Because both artists are busy. Both artists have their own careers, and neither one needs Silk Sonic to remain successful. That is precisely what makes the possibility so exciting. If they ever decide to return, it would not be because they need another hit. It would be because they genuinely have something new to say together. And that distinction matters. The internet loves a reunion. Fans love seeing two famous artists together. But a real Silk Sonic comeback would require more than nostalgia. It would require new music, new ideas, new chemistry, and a reason for Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak to become Silk Sonic again. That is where this Los Angeles sighting becomes interesting, because Los Angeles has always been one of the major creative centers of the music industry. Studios, producers, songwriters, musicians, entertainment executives, recording sessions, rehearsals, and private industry gatherings are constantly happening throughout the city. So when two globally recognized musicians with a history as strong as Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak are spotted together, fans naturally begin connecting the dots. But connecting dots is not the same thing as confirmation. And that is the line we need to keep clear. There is currently no confirmed announcement saying that Silk Sonic is recording a new album. There is no confirmed release date for a Silk Sonic single. There is no official statement announcing another Silk Sonic residency. And there is no confirmed new Silk Sonic era. What we do have is undeniable chemistry, renewed live performances, and a massive fan base that has never stopped asking for more. And that combination is powerful, because sometimes the biggest entertainment stories begin with something incredibly small. A photograph, a sighting, a backstage moment, a studio rumor, a social media comment, and then the speculation begins. This is exactly what happened with Silk Sonic before. The duo initially felt like an unexpected collaboration. Bruno Mars was one of the biggest pop stars in the world, while Anderson Paak had built a respected reputation across hip-hop, R&B, soul, funk, and live performance. Their partnership could have been a one-off. Instead, it became Silk Sonic. And once fans heard "Leave the Door Open," the chemistry was obvious. There was something different about them. Bruno could deliver the precision. Anderson could deliver the looseness. Bruno brought the polished showmanship. Anderson brought the raw groove. Together, they created balance. That balance is what fans are seeing again in 2026. And this is where things get even more interesting. The romantic tour itself has already become a bridge between Bruno Mars' solo identity and the Silk Sonic universe. Bruno is the headliner. Anderson is there as DJ P.We. But then Silk Sonic songs appear. The audience recognizes the opening groove. The atmosphere changes. The crowd reacts. And suddenly, the Bruno Mars concert becomes something else. For a few minutes, it becomes a Silk Sonic show again. That emotional reaction is exactly why fans are paying attention now. Because nostalgia is not just about remembering the past. It is about feeling that the past could happen again. And if you have watched any of the viral Silk Sonic performances from the Bruno Mars tour, you can understand why the speculation refuses to disappear. The crowd knows the songs. The crowd knows the choreography. The crowd knows every vocal line. And Bruno and Anderson still have the chemistry. That chemistry is the secret weapon. But here is the question nobody can answer yet. Could this chemistry eventually lead to new Silk Sonic music? That is the mystery. And this is where fans should be careful. A reunion conversation can easily become exaggerated online. One headline can turn into another. A fan post can become a rumor. A rumor can become a prediction. And suddenly, people start talking about a new album as if it has already been announced. It has not. At least not officially. So the most accurate way to describe the current situation is simple. Silk Sonic is back in the conversation. Not necessarily back as a formally announced new project. And there is a huge difference. But for fans, even that distinction is exciting. Because for a long time, Silk Sonic represented one of those rare musical partnerships that felt too good to be temporary. The Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak story is far from over. In fact, the more fans look at the bigger picture, the more fascinating the situation becomes. Because this is not simply about two musicians being spotted together in Los Angeles. It is about timing. It is about history. And it is about one of the most beloved music partnerships of the modern era suddenly finding itself back at the center of attention. For years, Silk Sonic has remained one of those rare collaborations that fans refuse to let go of. Even when Bruno Mars returned to his solo career, even when Anderson Paak moved into different creative projects, the demand for another Silk Sonic chapter never disappeared. And now, with Bruno Mars deep into his massive 2026 era and Anderson Paak once again appearing alongside him, that demand is getting louder. There is something different about seeing these two artists together. It immediately reminds people of the chemistry that made Silk Sonic so successful. Bruno has always been known for his precision. His vocals are polished. His stage presence is calculated. His performances are built around rhythm, choreography, musicianship, and showmanship. Anderson Paak brings something completely different. He has an instinctive groove, a loose energy, a drummer's sense of timing, a personality that can turn an ordinary performance into something unpredictable. When they come together, those differences become strengths. That is the formula that made Silk Sonic work. And it is also the reason fans continue to believe that another collaboration could be special. But there is an important question hanging over everything. What would a new Silk Sonic project actually look like in 2026? The answer may not be as simple as making another retro album. The first Silk Sonic era was built around a carefully constructed world. It felt like a celebration of classic soul and R&B. The visuals matched the music. The fashion matched the production. The performances matched the personalities. Everything was designed to transport the audience into another era. A second chapter would have to find a new identity. And that could be the most exciting part. Imagine Bruno Mars bringing the musical ideas he developed during his latest solo era into the studio with Anderson Paak. Imagine Anderson bringing his evolving production style and live performance instincts into that same creative environment. The result could sound familiar without sounding repetitive. Could still feel like Silk Sonic while moving somewhere completely new. That possibility alone is enough to keep fans watching. And there is another reason this conversation matters. The music industry has changed dramatically since Silk Sonic first appeared. Streaming platforms have become even more powerful. Short-form video has transformed how songs become viral. Concert clips can reach millions of people within hours. A single performance can suddenly introduce an old song to an entirely new audience. And Silk Sonic's music is perfectly designed for that environment. A Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak performance can become a viral moment without needing a traditional promotional campaign. One chorus, one dance move, one facial expression, one crowd reaction, one unexpected performance moment. And suddenly, millions of people are talking about Silk Sonic again. That is the power of nostalgia combined with current relevance. But there is another layer. Bruno Mars is no longer simply the artist fans remember from the early 2010s. His career has evolved. From doo-wops and hooligans to unorthodox jukebox, from 24K Magic to Silk Sonic, and now into the romantic era, Bruno has repeatedly shown an ability to reinvent his presentation without losing the musical identity that made audiences fall in love with him. Anderson Paak has followed a similarly unpredictable path. His career has crossed R&B, hip-hop, funk, soul, jazz, live instrumentation, DJ culture, and visual entertainment. That means the two artists have more creative experience now than they did when Silk Sonic first began. If they ever returned to the studio together, they would not be starting from zero. They would be building from everything they have learned since their first collaboration. And that raises another fascinating possibility. Maybe the next Silk Sonic project would not be designed to compete with the first one. Maybe it would be designed to expand it. Instead of trying to recreate Leave the Door Open, they could create something completely different. Something darker, something funkier, something more modern, or perhaps something nobody expects. That uncertainty is exactly why fans are paying attention to every Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak interaction. Because the public does not know what is happening behind the scenes. And until the artists speak publicly, speculation will continue. But there is a difference between speculation and misinformation. A sighting does not prove a recording session. A performance does not prove an upcoming album. A reunion on stage does not automatically mean a reunion project. Those distinctions matter. And yet, the excitement is still completely understandable. Because fans are not reacting to one isolated moment. They are reacting to years of history. They remember the first Silk Sonic announcement. They remember the anticipation surrounding Leave the Door Open. They remember the awards. They remember the performances. They remember the album. And they remember how quickly Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak turned a collaboration into an identity. That is why even the smallest new development can feel significant. Now imagine the reaction if the two artists actually walked into a studio together and announced that they were recording. Social media would explode. Music publications would immediately begin analyzing every detail. Fans would start predicting a release date. Streaming numbers for the original Silk Sonic catalog would likely surge. And every old performance would suddenly become relevant again. But none of that has happened officially yet. And that is exactly why the current moment should be viewed as a developing story rather than a confirmed reunion announcement. The most interesting part is that there is no need to manufacture drama. The real story is already compelling. Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak have reunited on stage. Silk Sonic songs are being performed again. Fans are reacting. The two artists are once again appearing in the same musical orbit. And now Los Angeles has become another focal point for the conversation. That is enough. Sometimes the strongest entertainment stories are the ones where the audience is allowed to ask questions. And right now, there are plenty of questions. Is Bruno Mars planning another collaboration with Anderson Paak? Could Silk Sonic return after the current tour cycle? Could a new song already exist? Could another album eventually happen? Could they surprise fans without announcing anything in advance? Or will this simply remain a special chapter in their careers? Nobody outside the artist's inner circle can answer those questions with certainty. But one thing is certain: the demand is still there. And that demand matters. Artists pay attention when audiences respond. Record labels pay attention when catalogs experience renewed interest. Streaming platforms pay attention when old songs begin trending again. And social media pays attention when nostalgia turns into a new viral moment. Silk Sonic has all of those ingredients, and that makes the duo's future one of the most intriguing unanswered questions in contemporary R&B and pop music. There is also something poetic about the timing. Bruno Mars is currently celebrating a new solo chapter. The conversation surrounding Bruno Mars, Anderson Paak, and Silk Sonic is entering another fascinating stage. What makes this story so compelling is not simply the possibility of another collaboration. It is the fact that Silk Sonic has already proven that when these two artists decide to work together, the result can become much bigger than anyone expects. That history is impossible to ignore. When Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak first joined forces, there was curiosity. Then came Leave the Door Open. Suddenly, curiosity became worldwide attention. The song became a cultural phenomenon, and Silk Sonic became one of the most recognizable musical duos of its generation. That is why fans are reacting so strongly whenever the two artists appear together. For many listeners, Silk Sonic represents a very specific feeling. It represents vintage soul. It represents smooth R&B. It represents live musicianship. It represents Bruno Mars wearing the perfect suit, Anderson Paak behind the drums, and an entire audience moving with the rhythm. But there is another element that made Silk Sonic different: fun. The duo never appeared overly serious about their own image. They understood the theatrical side of the concept. They could perform with incredible musical precision while still making the audience laugh. That combination is difficult to reproduce. And perhaps that is why fans are reluctant to accept that Silk Sonic could simply remain a one-era phenomenon. The music still sounds fresh. The performances still circulate online. The songs continue to appear on playlists. And every new Bruno Mars performance creates another opportunity for people to rediscover the Silk Sonic catalog. Now think about the timing again. Bruno Mars is not in a quiet period of his career. He is in the middle of a major global touring era. The Romantic Tour has placed him in some of the world's biggest stadiums, creating massive live audiences and countless viral moments. And Anderson Paak is not watching from a distance. He is part of the journey. That alone makes the current situation different from previous years. For a long time, Bruno and Anderson were pursuing separate creative paths. Now their professional worlds are overlapping again. That does not automatically mean Silk Sonic is returning, but it does create an environment where another collaboration would be much easier to imagine. And fans understand that. They are not necessarily demanding an announcement tomorrow. They simply want to know whether the chemistry that created Silk Sonic still exists. The answer appears obvious. It does. Every time the two perform together, the audience reaction speaks for itself. The energy changes. The crowd becomes louder. People recognize the songs almost instantly, and social media begins doing what social media always does. Clips start spreading. Fans begin analyzing. Old interviews are reposted. Silk Sonic playlists begin circulating again. And suddenly, a performance from years ago becomes relevant to a new generation. This is the strange power of modern music culture. A song can be released years ago and suddenly become part of today's conversation again. Silk Sonic is particularly well positioned for that kind of revival because the music was designed to feel timeless. The production intentionally looked backward, but the performances remained contemporary. That balance helped the duo reach listeners who loved classic R&B, as well as younger fans discovering the genre for the first time. And if Silk Sonic ever returns, that same strategy could work again. But there is one major challenge. How do you surprise people after creating something that already feels iconic? That is the question Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak would have to answer. A sequel cannot simply be another version of the first album. Fans would immediately compare everything. The first single, the production, the vocals, the outfits, the choreography, the music videos, the album artwork, the live performances. Everything would be analyzed. That pressure could be enormous. But Bruno Mars has dealt with enormous expectations throughout his career. Every era has come with the same question. Can he do it again? And every time, he has found a way to change the presentation. Anderson Paak brings the same creative confidence. He has never been an artist who depends on one formula. That is why a second Silk Sonic project could potentially be unpredictable. Maybe the duo would go deeper into funk. Maybe they would explore more live instrumentation. Maybe they would incorporate contemporary R&B production. Maybe they would create something cinematic. Maybe they would completely abandon expectations. And that last possibility could be the most exciting, because the best collaborations are often the ones where the artists surprise themselves. Imagine entering a studio without trying to recreate Leave the Door Open. No pressure to make another Grammy-winning single. No pressure to repeat the past. Just Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak experimenting with sound. That could produce something unexpected. And perhaps that is the only way another Silk Sonic project should happen. Not as a business decision, not as a nostalgia product, but as a creative decision. That distinction is important because fans sometimes forget that successful artists have to protect their creative energy. Bruno has spent years building a career based on quality. Anderson has built his reputation around musical authenticity. Neither artist needs to release music simply because people are asking for it. If they return, fans want the music to be worth the wait. And that is why the current speculation should remain exactly that. Speculation. The Los Angeles sighting is interesting. The renewed live chemistry is interesting. The Silk Sonic performances are interesting. The fan reaction is enormous. But none of these things officially confirm a new project. That does not make the story less exciting. It actually makes the mystery stronger, because the audience has no official answer. There is no release date to count down to. There is no track list to analyze. There is no album cover to inspect. There is no lead single to stream. There is simply a question. Could Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak be preparing something? And that question is enough to keep the conversation alive. Now consider the potential impact if they did announce something. The announcement alone could become a major global music event. The first teaser would probably dominate social media. The original Silk Sonic songs would receive another wave of attention. Fans who discovered Bruno Mars after the first Silk Sonic era would suddenly dive into the back catalog. Older fans would return immediately. Music journalists would begin comparing the new era with An Evening with Silk Sonic. And streaming platforms would have a ready-made audience waiting. That is an incredibly powerful position. But there is another reason a comeback could matter. Silk Sonic helped bring traditional R&B performance back into the center of mainstream pop culture. At a time when music was increasingly dominated by digital production, the duo emphasized musicianship, arrangements, vocal performance, choreography, and live instrumentation. That influence could become even more meaningful today. A new Silk Sonic project could once again demonstrate that retro-inspired music does not have to sound outdated. Can sound modern, can sound expensive, can sound cinematic, can become global pop music. And that is part of what made the original project so successful. The duo understood that nostalgia is strongest when it is transformed rather than copied. They did not simply recreate the 1970s. They created their own version of the 1970s through a modern lens. If they return, perhaps they could do the same thing with another era. Maybe the next Silk Sonic chapter could explore the late 1970s. Maybe the 1980s. Maybe 1990s R&B. Or maybe they would create an entirely fictional musical universe. Nobody knows. And that uncertainty is what makes the speculation fun. But there is one thing fans should not lose sight of. The relationship between Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak is bigger than one album. Their individual careers continue. Their friendship and professional chemistry can exist without another Silk Sonic record. Their current performances can be appreciated without turning every appearance into a prediction. And perhaps that is the healthiest way to look at this story. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the performances. Enjoy the music. And let the artists decide what comes next. The Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak story continues to gain momentum, and the reason is becoming increasingly clear. This is not simply another celebrity sighting. It is a reminder of a partnership that created one of the most recognizable sounds in modern R&B. Silk Sonic may not have an officially announced new era, but the name continues to generate attention whenever Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak appear together. And now, with the two artists once again sharing the same musical space, fans are revisiting everything that made Silk Sonic special in the first place. There is a reason Leave the Door Open remains so powerful. The song did not depend on a complicated formula. It depended on chemistry. Bruno Mars sounded completely comfortable. Anderson Paak sounded completely comfortable. The production created space for both artists. And the performance made the entire concept feel larger than the recording itself. That chemistry cannot be measured by streaming numbers alone. You can hear it in the way they respond to each other. You can see it in their stage movements. You can feel it in the audience reaction. And that is exactly why their latest appearances are generating so much attention. Fans know what they are looking at. They have seen this combination before. They know what can happen when Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak decide to turn a simple performance into an event. But there is another factor making the current moment particularly interesting. Bruno Mars is currently operating on a massive stadium scale. The Romantic Tour has transformed his concerts into major entertainment spectacles. Huge stages, large audiences, complex production, multiple costume changes, high-energy choreography, live musicians, and, of course, Anderson Paak. That environment gives Silk Sonic material a completely different impact. A song that was originally designed for a polished studio project can suddenly become part of a stadium experience. Thousands of people singing together, fans filming from the audience, clips appearing online, and younger listeners discovering the music through concert footage. That creates a cycle. The more people discover Silk Sonic, the more they talk about Silk Sonic. The more they